Happy Monday, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Teamwork a Better Way. I am Christian Napier, and I am joined by my forever friend and amazing co-host, Spencer Horn. I can't even say your name right, Spencer. Must be Monday. How you doing?
I'm great. Excited to be here with you, Christian. Good Monday morning. How are you?
I can't get through an intro without flubbing, so probably not amazing, but yeah, doing great. Had a nice little weekend. I had dinner with some friends. We celebrated our son's 27th birthday. So yeah, it's been a good weekend overall. And you, did you have a nice weekend?
Busy weekend. I was gone all last week, so I was in Las Vegas speaking at a conference. While I was there, I flew to Denver to speak at another event, back to Las Vegas, and spoke at a great conference. The associations out there are crazy. The Government Investment Officer Association. That's who I spoke to.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it
And
was.
I understand you also had a call like 11:30 last night. This is what happens when you are,
Yeah,
working around the globe. You end up having to take calls at crazy times of the day and night
yeah.
to meet the needs of your clients. So
Yeah, my client
congratulations.
in Doha, you asked a question, and obviously they have been challenged with the war that's going on over there and working from home. Kids are not going to school. This is in Qatar. Same with the UAE. I'm sure is very similar in Kuwait and Bahrain. But for them, they said it's calming down. Things are starting to get a little bit better, and back in the office. She was actually driving to the office when I spoke to her last night at 11:30 my time. So
Well, I
nice.
hope that continues. I really do. I
Yeah.
hope that continues and we can find a resolution quickly to all of this.
Yes, for
But
sure.
let's not get sidetracked
No.
with all of that that's going on because we have an amazing guest and we want to spend as much time with him as possible. So, Spencer, why don't you do the honors?
Yes, we've got Gui Costin today that I am so excited to introduce to you. Gui is the founder and CEO of Dakota, a financial software, data, and media company based in one of my favorite cities, Philadelphia, PA. And Dakota's flagship product, the Dakota Marketplace, is a database of institutional investors, which is used, Christian, by over 6,000 fundraisers and over 1,400 global investment firms. Guy is a leadership expert. He's part of the Forbes book network. He's written 3 books. Millennials Are Not Aliens. The Dakota Way, which I hope we get to hear about, and his latest book, Be Kind, which is really the focus of our topic today. Really, the question that we have: can you build a hard charging, high performance culture without losing kindness? Is kind of the thesis of it is the thesis of our topic today. So, your question is provocative, Guy. Can a company be extremely hard charging and still operate with kindness? And what inspired this question from you, and then answer it, of course. Welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be on. Thanks for having me on. And just what inspired the Be Kind book was I spent a lot of time building a business over the past 20 years. In the early days, there was a lot of volatility, right? And it was kind of a locker room mentality. And I had a lot of lessons learned. But I did learn 5 years in, from 2006 to 2011, that really at the end of the day, it was about helping other people get what they want out of life. That was the mantra that I started on in 2011. And then as we grew the business and started the second product, we started hiring, a lot more women. And we only had, Tracy's been with us since '07. And I knew the locker room mentality and just, wasn't going to work. And it wasn't especially not going to work when I hired my 2 best friends' daughters. And they started in 2020. And so the question was really at the end of the day, if the most important thing for a leader is to keep their best people forever, how do you do that? Right. And you treat them like gold. But can you have this thesis, like I said, like you just mentioned, of a ridiculously hard charging culture, playing at the highest professional level, but do it with kindness? And we've proven that you can. And the reason I think it's such an important topic is because people spend more time at work than they do with their family. And can you make it where work is fun enjoyable. Everyone's become the best versions of themselves. There's respect, but there's also not kumbaya. It's not to address thorny, important issues. You have to do that. That's kindness. And we've proven that it actually is possible. And that's what the whole book is about.
That's really interesting. I was sent a link to a video last week. I'm trying to remember who the person was, but she delivers this TED talk on the super chickens. I don't know if you've heard this thing about the super chickens. So
These
basically,
chicken soldiers. What are they? I don't know what those are.
no, what it was this biologist conducted some experiments, and he wanted to see uh, how he could optimize production. And so um, he basically had two flocks of chickens. One was just like average egg laying chickens and let them do their thing. And the other, he over 6 generations bred this like super chicken, that would had higher output than the average chicken, right? And so he let those chickens go over several. I can't remember what the timeline was, months or whatever. And what happened was that the average chickens were more productive than the super chickens. The super chickens ended up pecking each other to death. There were only 3 alive by the end of the study. And so, it made me think about like, okay, the hard charging alpha culture where we try to, we are optimized for maximum results and everything. And if we're all alphas, then chances are we can outcompete each other and create a very toxic environment that just eats everybody alive. And so I'm curious, in the experience that you had, if you saw that, because what is the rationale to say, oh well, I want to be kind, I want to create a culture that has includes more women and so on and so forth. But why? I mean, if you can have the locker room culture and you bring in a bunch of alphas, to do the thing, you know, traditional logic would say, hey, then we're going to get more optimal results. But what you're telling me is something that seems more aligned with this like super chicken experiment, right? Where if you bring folks along that may not all be alphas, but they can get along with each other and they can build relationships and they can work together, that ultimately leads to a better outcome. I'm just curious to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, we as we were building this second business, we hired roughly 70 people, 75 people in the past 7 years. And think of volatility, right? You don't need to be a jerk, right, to get stuff done. You can be thoughtful with your words. You can be thoughtful with how you treat people, um, and you can treat people like adults. You can trust people, and if you create that environment, it leads to extraordinary results from the individuals. And I'm just seeing it, right, where we don't have to sit there and spend any time talking about people or HR issues or any of that. It's just all about we all want to be transparent. We want to set expectations, and we absolutely always want to be asking why. Why are we doing something, and why is that so important? Because you always want to be growing and questioning everything that you're doing. And as a leader, I don't need to demean people, put them down, poke fun, make jokes, stuff like that. Which is, look, in the work environment, that's a little bit of the sort of the standard operating procedure. And people don't leave companies; they leave their bosses, and I don't want to lose our best people. And so I just made the decision, not that I was so bad at it before, but I just made the decision to kind of completely reverse course and go super low vol, treat everyone like adults, hear the expectations. And look, along the way, we had extremely low turnover the past 3 years, extremely low. We did have some turnover, probably 20 people, just that didn't kind of fit the culture and it just didn't work out. Um, but also another important thing is that the institutional knowledge to get a job done. If someone comes in and they're there 6 months in a year and leave, then they never get into any kind of rhythm, if you will, and really know how to get the job done. And I think that's just another critical component of keeping people. And most people, as I said, you have to be intensely vulnerable to go down this kind leadership path. Intensely vulnerable, because there's so much stuff comes up. Oh, they're going to take advantage of me, or they're not going to work hard. Like all this noise, right? And I haven't seen the evidence there, because then what ends up happening is everyone's performing and they're having fun together, because that's one big part of our culture is you got to have fun. I got to love the people I work with. And we've built really two marvelous businesses doing this. I mean, our Dakota Marketplace product is it's definitely the best in the industry today for what it does and who it serves. And it's only growing and growing and growing. And so, that's really the logic. It's not so like alpha, type A, all of that. It's just everyone's really cordial to each other. They're cool. And we don't have any managers. We have leaders, but we have 55 people that work in a downtown Philly office. There's not one manager overlooking all those 20 and 30 somethings. So we sort of proved it works. The science experiment works, and everyone's really happy.
So you're saying it's a holacracy?
It works, and we've been voted by Forbes, 50th, great place to work. So that's been really cool. Philadelphia, I think the Philadelphia Business Journal did the same thing, and they looked at the results that we got back. She goes, "We've never seen anything like this." So people really love coming to work, and it works. And then all of a sudden, if you really care about your customers, don't you want to keep your employees and your teammates ridiculously happy? Take care of them, so they would then take care of your customers. Right?
It seems so obvious, Guy, and so I'm a team performance coach, right? So I come in and assess where the cultures are on teams, and what you're talking about is around 10% worldwide have that type of experience. So when we have what would seem like so many smart people running organizations, why do we struggle with this? I mean, answer why you think the locker room mentality happens. Where does it come from? Where does this culture that actually defeats high performance? How does it generate? Where does it come from?
I just think people are intellectually lazy. And I start the book off. The first line of the book is the most out of control line on the planet, right? And my ghostwriter was like, "Gui, why are we?" It's the only time I swear in the whole book. I use a expletive. And I said, because when people read that, they're going to know exactly what it means. There's not one person who's going to read that line and not know exactly what it means. And I basically say it's easy to be a D. You know what I mean? It's easy to be a jerk. And what that means is it's so intellectually lazy to say whatever comes into your brain and let those words go out of your mouth. But we all know you've been in work situations where somebody said one word to you, and it's like you've never forgotten it because it tweaked you out, and it was either rude, inconsiderate, what have you. And if you can just not do that. So I had lunch 3 weeks ago with a Navy SEAL named David Rutherford, SEAL to CIA. Now he's a coach. And he did the Boston Red Sox. He's like really well pedigreed guy. And he looked at me, he goes, "I studied you before we're having lunch," because it's his high school classmate. We were down in Florida together. And he goes, "I've never seen a high performance culture like coaching with kindness as its core principle." And I was like, well, it works really well with us. You know what I mean? But to answer your question even more deeply, I think people can be intellectually lazy. They're going to take the easy street. So they're going to say whatever comes into their brain. And listen, if you really want to go a little deep on it, because I do talk about it in the book, every human being has some level of childhood trauma, right? It's not, and anybody who, at least has some self-awareness, we all do, right? Parenting is imperfect, blah, blah. It is. But it's all that baggage that you carry with you unless you address it as an adult, as a leader, everything. Because you could have grown up and you said, "Hey, if you're nice to people," your dad says, "if you're nice to people, they're going to take advantage of you." So the leadership style is then, well, I have to be a jerk because they're going to take advantage of me. And my dad said you can't. You know what I mean? It's like you have to have such self-awareness and understanding of yourself. And also, who wants to come to work and be teased or put down or made fun of, or someone calls them out on their sweater, the color of their sweater? I mean, no one who wants that, right?
I think all of that is true, and this is something this is actually the thesis of my talk. It's called Stronger Than Your Strengths. I mean, my keynote, I talk about this all the time. And I think one of the contributing factors is that we've also been told, how many books are there that talk about your strengths? Just focus on your strengths. Just be you. We have this false idea of what it means to be authentic. And that is, hey, I'm an alpha male, I'm a high D, or I'm a this or that. And we celebrate the fact that we are naturally D's, right? We're naturally that jerk that you talked about. It's part of the culture right now that says, you know what, Guy, this is who you are, and to be authentic, you need to be yourself. And we kind of celebrate people releasing the beast, thinking that's what's going to build trust with people, and it's not. And you know, the best leaders are actually able to filter themselves. But you also gave an antidote to the problem, and in your description a minute ago, and you said you hired women.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, not by like, I didn't go out and say we're just going to hire. You know, it's just, it evolved, right? As you started, and as we're growing the business, we needed to fill roles, and then
But
we
so
interviewed for those
how
roles.
did
And
that impact the culture?
well, uh, I mean, this I don't want this to come across as chauvinistic in any way, shape, or form. So I'm a little careful with my words. But we have 24 women on our team, and
Yeah,
to a person, they are just the best people on the planet, and they are so much fun to work with. They are so productive. They are so reliable, right? They buy in. And listen, leaders, I believe, have to have their safe places that they can go if they're frustrated about something. Last week, I was frustrated with the ads that we were putting in our newsletter, and I thought I had addressed this issue, right? So I called up our president, our head of product, safe place for me. I can be ridiculously direct, kind, right? But it wasn't like a comfortable conversation. I'm like, guys, like, are you kidding me? Like, like this is like, sometimes you just have to like, I thought I had addressed it. And then they listened, and I said, look, and I call those, in the old days, I called them Gui Canos. And so I finished the conversation with those guys, like 22 minutes, and we're going back and forth, and I'm sort of having it out, but I needed a safe place to release my frustration of why this isn't getting done. And it's going to 31,000 people, and we can't figure out the ad. So it's not a small problem. You know what I mean? And that's just one issue. So I go, Pat, love you guys. Sorry for the Gui Cano. Pat goes, what? That wasn't even close to a geek can. Stop. So my point is then you develop that trust, and then you can, I'm not kumbaya. And I called them up, and I was legitimately ticked off, like very ticked off.
but here's the
But
point:
it's, yeah,
you have built enough rapport and relationship trust with those that if you do need to let off a little bit of steam, they know where it's coming from. And I think
yeah,
that's what Stephen Covey called the emotional bank account, right? You have a surplus because you have built that trust with them. And I've had with my mentor same tough conversations where I knew it came from a place of love, not because he was being a jerk, because I needed to hear something that got my attention to move the needle. I love that. Well, let me just say one thing before I know Christian's got a question here, but I speak to CEO groups all over the U.S. and Canada. And when I go to groups that are all men, the locker mentality is usually more present. When there
yeah.
are a few, even a couple of women in the group, they all behave better.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it keeps you honest. And my two best friends' daughters, I don't want those antics going back to the kitchen table to their moms, who I adore. So yeah, I mean, we have two heads of renewals. I mean, we really, I mean, one was a waitress. One had left us as an intern, and she was just doing some modeling for J. Crew. And then we brought them in, and they're literally killing it. I'm so
Yeah,
proud of them, and just watching them just evolve, how they relate to these procurement people, and just how they behave and how they do things. I mean, it's just, I mean, I could go through each one. I mean, we did something really neat about a month and a half ago. We put it all over LinkedIn. It's all the boys a custom jacket as a Christmas present from this haberdasher up in New York. And I did it like 10 years ago. And I wanted to have everybody get an opportunity as a thank you to have their own custom jacket because they wouldn't do it on their own. Um, and then, of course, I told the girls about it. Hey, what do you think? And they're kind of like, Eve, like, we don't really like jackets. Like, we don't wear sport coats. So, making a long story short, my wife had this idea. We're like, okay, we're going to do something else. Long story short, what it transpired into is a bus ride from Philly to New York, called it Ladies' Day. Went, picked a restaurant, had an amazing lunch, all 24 of the women at Dakota. And then they walked one block to Bergdorf Goodman, and they all got they picked out their own present. And they said it was one of the greatest days, and bonded with everyone, had a ball. And when you put 24 great women like that, all together, I mean, it's really pretty special. And so, yeah, and that's just celebrating them because listen, we work in an industry that there's the investment industry is heavily, heavily skewed to males,
yeah,
right? And and then we have 3x the female leaders than we do male leaders, so 3x at least. Most of our chiefs are females, like our CTO, our CMO, right? Our head of our studio. Um, so it's just been a blast, and it's just awesome. There's awesome people. Listen, the boys and the girls, if you will, the men and the women, like they're all equally great. They all have equally great values.
No, I know we're
Um,
not talking any. We're
yeah,
not putting any men down here whatsoever.
yeah.
We know that men we behave a little bit better when there's a woman in the room.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt it keeps you honest, and there's no place in our culture for any attitude or any teasing or anything. We don't. There's like 0.0 of that, and it's all self-policing, and everyone wants to get their job done, right? And then also they know too they can come to the leadership, and we will remove any obstacle, right? So if someone wants to, there's no ceilings to the code, as we say, no ceilings. So you can grow as much as you want. Helen right now is going through a really cool thing where she just wants to do more around our integrations, and then we sort of set up a whole thing there, and we're just watching her blossom. So it's just, and by the way, women are great attention to detail. There's one thing I learned too. In general, you do not need. And again, it's gonna. You never need to tell any of our female teammates to do something twice. You tell them once, and they just get it done. It's responsible, and it's just so fun to work in an environment like that. And then sometimes, not all people are having a great day. And I'll give you another example. Recently, I asked our president, our head of marketing, Catherine. Was just kind of was a little off, not really herself, and like something just wasn't right. And some people could go at it very differently. I said, Rob, just call her, okay? And I want you to go the deepest, deepest, deepest compassion you can possibly have. Just seek to understand and listen. Just say, hey, I'm just touching base. What's going on? Well, it turns out we were trying to implement this new email marketing platform, and it was a complete disaster. And we tried these consults, and she was just bearing the brunt of all that stress. And so when we just sat down, and she's like, no, it's killing me. It's killing me. And okay, we got it. We addressed it. And then, right, but you don't go at it as an accusatory, why are you acting like this?
Let's
What's going
solve the
on?
problem.
Right. Yeah, and you just go with intense compassion, just to seek to understand and back to normal in 1 minute. We have your back. We're going to do. We end up flushing the whole platform. We just it's like this is not working, Catherine. We're not going to implement this. We're going to move on to and then it was like, all the stress went away. So those are just the little examples every single day of it's how you treat people, right?
Christian, I think it's time for you to go to a haberdasher with me.
Yeah, I'm ready to put something here on my rapidly balding head. So I've got a question for you. You touched on a couple of experiences that you had where things weren't going all sunny, because uh, people can have perhaps a skewed perception. Like if I create this culture that everything is going to go swell, right? But you run into hard times on a couple of occasions that you pointed out here, uh, and you talked about how you handled them. I'm curious uh, to hear your take on what's the difference between being nice and being kind. We have uh, uh, a little saying around here, which is Utah nice, which is okay. We get along at the surface. We say hello and how are things going, but we don't really get deep. Um, and uh, if I understand what you're saying correctly, being kind doesn't necessarily mean always being nice, right? Like
No,
you are
no.
understanding, but you mentioned in this, where something wasn't working out, you had a meeting, you were very direct in that meeting. And so I'm wondering if you can kind of walk through the distinction between these two for you and your organization.
Yeah, so it's in the book. We talk about kind versus nice, and you don't want to be nice, right? You want to be kind. And why is that? Because a lot of times being nice is probably the most unkind thing that you can do. I was talking to a young lady yesterday who dates my son's best friend, and she was just had to take on 5 people that report to her. And I said, look, at the end of the day, people want to be led for the most part. They want to be led. They want to be having clear direction. They want to feel like they're being taken care of and led. And being direct, not being insulting, right? But you have to show people what good looks like. And if we're sitting there in a situation and it doesn't look good, right? It's not the way we do things, and you're just going to sit there because you want to be nice, you don't want to address the issue. You're doing such a disservice to that person. You're killing that person, right? Now, but all you have to do is, as I say, look, guys, at the end of the day, it's my job to define for you guys what good looks like, right? And I think as we're going here, this is not what good looks like. Let's be clear, and this is why, right? And for instance, we have a very distinct logo, Dakota. Well, we were doing an invitation to an event, and somebody just decided, not really thinking, they just used the logo on the Dakota Way book. And so I said to them, I said, guys, why do we create a new logo? They're like, we didn't. No, I said, well, like, why do we create a new logo? Don't we already have a logo? That's the logo we want to use when we brand anything, right? And it took me like 5 times, and finally they were like, oh, okay, I got it. Now, I could have let that slip or this or that, and then no, you have standards, and that's why if you're coaching CEOs, the absolute most underrated, most important thing a company can do is to write down what it stands for, your standards. People call them core principles. It's your standards. And then because all you have to do is come back to the standards, right? If you all agree on what you stand for, then that makes those conversations very, very easy. Like details matter is one of our core principles. Okay, if details matter, are we just going to be lazy and choose a different logo and we can get away with it? Or are we going to have our logo every single time? And so that's one teeny little thing. But defining your standards, and one of our biggest standards is focus on what matters most, focus on what you can control. So if you also come back to that, I just had to redo our investment sales 11:30 weekly check-in, right? Because it had gotten a little unwieldy and it was taking too long and people weren't focusing on what matters most. So when everyone reported, it's like, look, these are the 6 things that matter most, and everyone's going to go around the room for 2 minutes and talk about those from last week, opportunities you've moved forward, right? And then you plan for the week, right? And so those standards drive everything, and writing those down, because then when you're in a pickle or you're in a situation, you can point to the different, what your core principles. We have walked 8 feet, don't go cowboy. That's kind of tap into collective knowledge of the group. Paralysis by analysis, throw your hat over the wall, right? Turn your brain off. Why do we say those things? Because people can get paralyzed. They overthink things. Well, I came up with a few core principles to address that, right? And then everyone has to vote, if you will, on their favorite core principle and why. And so if you just really get that into the fabric of the company, then all of a sudden it's like, hey, it's really clear what we stand for. We stand for responsiveness, right? Super, super valuable. So.
So important, Guy. When you talk about core values, it's basically this is the way we behave. And a core value, in my opinion, it must be non-negotiable, which is why you shouldn't have too many of them, because you don't want to restrict everything. I mean, you can have aspirational values, right? But a core value is non-violent. I mean, it's just, this is who we are, this is what we do. And so, for example, when we pay, let me back up and give you an example. So when I go in and work with a team, I was just working with a major organization in Qatar, and my coach and I, we create what we call an alliance. And it's basically how we're going to work together, how we're going to behave together. And so that when something happens, we know how to correct it if we go outside of that, right? Which is what you're talking about. Yeah. We do the same thing with the group of people that we're working on. We say, listen, what is going to make us wildly successful in this interaction? What do you need from us? And then we tell them what we need from them. We need you to be all in. We need you to be present. And then we all vote on, yes, these are agreements that we will live. And when people, as imperfect as they are, break them, then we go back and say, hey, do you remember the commitment that you made to pay attention to details? That didn't happen. What are you going to do about it? And it's not an argument, because you've already agreed that that's what you're going to do. And now because you've set those standards, and there are people that say, I don't want to live that standard. Okay, well, then this isn't the place for you. And that's totally fine.
Right.
Right. And so I think that's I really think that's really key to being kind is have standards that people agree to, so we don't have to fuss about it. We can just say, hey, listen, that doesn't meet our standards. How are we going to get that back in alignment?
Yep, 100%. And all of our standards have the through line. Oh, and I always say to our team, if I'm going to, you can sit down with me at any time and tell me from what I'm asking you to do is not in your best interest. And I have an open door policy for anybody to come to me and make that case, because I'm not asking you to do stuff that's not in your best interest, the customer's best interest. We're not, because back in the day when I was in sales, sometimes they would do activity for activity's sake. That was kind of a line that really makes no sense, right? It's like what are the core things that drive whatever activity, right? Focusing what matters most, and then when you do that, what people really feel refreshed by is they know they're not wasting time. They're not doing stupid stuff. People love that, right? Or conversely, since they don't do it at Dakota, they can't stand that. We also have something I think you'll really enjoy. We have a monthly offsite. We call them W days. What's working, what's not working. Each group comes in, whatever it is, the tech team, the product team, the marketing team, the sales team, HR and finance, and they talk about no presentations. They sit around like with 7 or 8 of us and around a big table on our 3rd floor. What's working, what's not working. Rachel takes all the notes. We probably walk away with 45 to 50 solid ideas and takeaways from that day. And now people are like, oh yeah, remember that idea came out of the W day? So what we do is we create a very safe place where people can say, hey, look, what is not working? And then another thing that I do, okay, everyone has to come up with one thing they want to stop doing. What is that? All of a sudden you're like, oh, I'll never forget it, because we do QBRs, quarterly business reviews with our customers. And the CSMs, the customer success people, had to schedule those. And this is 2 years ago, W Day. I said, what would you like? They're like, well, Guy, I'll tell you, it's so time consuming scheduling these QBRs. So I'm like, Saab, what do you mean? What are you saying? So I can understand how I need to solve this problem. He goes, it's too time consuming to set up the meetings. It's killing us. I said, so are you saying that if we had one dedicated person to schedule those that didn't have he looks at me and he goes, you would do that? I said, Saab, it's done. It's over. We're hiring it. Like, next item. He goes, you're kidding me. I said, no, we happen to have a woman, right? Isabel. So boom, she does that. Boom. So that's what those days are for, is just to have the freedom. You think as much as we communicate. Yeah, good.
I have a question about that. Sorry, Christian. I want you to, the question I had a minute ago was, you've built this platform with thousands of global investment firms. And so there's a lesson there about scaling, right? I mean, you got up to 75 employees, and that's a good size investment firm, right? I mean, how have these principles, the core values, the W days, being kind, how have they helped you in scaling something? Because I want people to listen to this if they are serious business people and they're saying, yeah, that's nice for the culture and stuff, but how does that relate to the actual growth of the business from your perspective?
Because you keep your best people, and they, over time, if they're good, what took them 30 hours to do is going to take them 10, is going to take them 30 minutes, is going to take them 5 minutes. So
this is all about productivity. Amen, amen, amen.
Yeah, I mean, that's the name of the game, right? And that's what I was saying about our renewal team. I mean, watching them grow into these unbelievable, how they address really thorny issues around budget and procurement people and the whole. Those are not easy people to deal with, and I'm watching them just absolutely kill it. But they're not mean, but they're just they're very direct. They know how to interact with people. But yeah, it all comes down to productivity. It all comes down to keeping your best people. It all comes down to what it takes to get a job done, and then that knowledge. Like we can double our revenue in that business and not hire any new people, and so that means everybody gets to grow, and instead of just bringing in new people, right? And I love.
Then they get to go to downtown Manhattan for lunch in a haberdasher.
Exactly. Gotta have fun. See,
that's 100%. 100%.
Okay, Guy, I've got a question for you based on something you said moments ago. You gave the example of, hey, one of our values, our standards, is we are detail oriented, and a person using the wrong logo, and you corrected that. So one of the questions that I have is, how do you walk the fine line between being kind and helpful and micromanaging, right? Because
I
another
love
thing
that
that you
question.
mentioned was like this analysis paralysis thing, which is real. And that is driven by fear primarily. Like, I'm afraid to make a decision. I don't feel confident that I have all the
Because
information.
Guy's going to open,
Uh,
what was that you called it? A can of
no, a geek,
So, my question is
There's no more
simply,
of those, by the way. There's no more of
okay,
those.
good.
yeah, like
Yeah.
how do you make sure that you give people latitude to do the things that they do, so that they don't feel micromanaged, while at the same time having high standards and making sure that people are living up to them.
Yeah, I think micromanaging, I just have to say, is probably somewhat of a misnomer. Because really, micromanaging is you're just saying, I don't trust you to get your job done. So I got to ask a bunch of dumb questions, right? Whereas if you set clear direction on how we're doing things and you sit down and have a conversation and people know what the goals are, they know the direction we're going in, and you let them do their job, right? That's what people want to be trusted, right? People want to be trusted. That's why it's so hard if you look at some parents, and trust me, I'm not perfect in any way, shape, or form, but if you make every single decision for your kids, right, they don't end up ever having or developing any self-confidence because, mom's just making every decision, answering every question, right? People ask your son a question, mom answers it. Well, can't the kid answer it? You know what I mean? Like that would be like examples, just not clearly, visibly not trusting someone to get their job done. And then and another thing that I think that I would say too, this is a little bit of a gold nugget, is that nobody's going to work, okay, for 8 hours a day straight. It's just, it's just not going to, if it takes somebody an hour to get their job done or what have you, like we've never had a vacation policy, take the time you need. We've never had a travel and entertainment policy, just stay where you want to stay, just use the money like it's your own money. That's 20 years. We've never had an issue. So once people know that and then if we're so transparent, if we know something's going on and things look a little askew, right, we just address it, right? And say, hey, tell me what you're thinking here. Is this the direction we want to go in? I was thinking about this. And then you just have and once people know they're not going to get ripped apart, they'll take chances, they'll take risks. And yeah, there's no micromanaging really is like saying like, I just don't trust you. And then it actually comes out in your personality because you're acting sort of incongruent with trust, if that makes sense. And it's so obvious the person knows that you don't trust them to get the job done because you're asking really weird questions. And we just don't do that. That's just not part of our culture, at all. Now, are we on? Do we have so many, like Mondays are really busy because we do all of our check-ins and everyone listens for what's going on in that group and the other groups and this group and how are things going. So we monitor everything. We have great stats. But yeah, there's micromanaging just implies a total lack of trust.
You've listed some great ideas to keep people motivated. One of and I'd like you to maybe summarize and add some others. How do you keep, well, let me back up. Burnout is a huge issue right now all across, the world. I talk to people that are they feel like they're burning the candle at both ends. They feel pressure from society and, geopolitical issues. My friends in the Middle East, they're not sleeping at night, obviously for certain reasons. But even before that, just there's so much brain space that is being taken up by things that are happening in the world. How do you create this, this high performance culture without burning people out? How do you help them renew and recharge and replenish?
Well, number one is how you treat them, right? Number two, generally, we're kind of a ghost town at 5:15 in our office, so we're not like grinding people till 7, 8, 9 at night. We have a 7:45 sales check-in every day, so people kind of come in early. Right across the street from our downtown office, we have this really cool club where I buy everyone a membership, and it includes an incredible gym. And I encourage people during the day to walk around the block or get some exercise, right? I mean, so highly encourage to reset every day because you can't just work 8 straight hours, and that doesn't make any sense. And like I said, if you're just cool to people, and because a lot of the burnout comes from almost unrealistic expectations, right? Where people are asking you to do stuff where you're pushing too hard, right? And I just don't think that's a winning scenario. Now people feel like if I'm not pushing someone, they're not going to be getting the job done. I want to get the most out of them, and you're really saying that means they don't have the ability to get the most out of themselves. And it might be in sports that you can kind of high school and college sports that there's maybe more of a place for that. I don't think there's a place for that in the work environment. And you hire people. This is your responsibilities. You're going to report back against these, and then just let them do their thing. And if it so when I come to the downtown office, we have this huge open area with an 8 foot by 8 foot bar height kitchen table in this big room. There's 15 seats around it. I just come down there and sit down there, and people come in with their laptops. They're sitting in chairs. They're there's no Gui like saying, "Hey, how come you're not in your office doing this?" Hey, I never say any of that, right? I just hang, right? Say hello to everyone, because they're going to feed off of my energy, and so there's none of that. And so people feel that. And then there's nothing like, "Oh my gosh, why are you leaving at 5:05?" Right? Well, I mean, that's just not. That's not what we're about. I think you can get your if a customer calls at 5:30 or 6 or emails you, the expectation is you'll definitely respond. And I would say also that you respond at 9 o'clock at night. Right now, I'm not going to. I've never had to say that. I'm saying it right now, but I've never had to say that. But that's what people do. Right? They get an email from a customer, and they get right back to them. And I also think that attitude. I believe that's the right attitude people should have. It shouldn't be like, well, if it's 5 o'clock, I'm out. Right? I'll respond the next. That's just not there. I just don't think that's a good attitude for anyone to have. I think serving people is the greatest. To be of service is the greatest thing that you can do. Taking care of people, that would be an example. So I would actually be doing somebody a disservice if I told them that no, you shouldn't respond. If you're sitting there and your phone lights up at 9 and someone has a question, you get back to them. Right? And I'm not saying spend an hour, right? But so there's like a delicacy there. It's a delicate sort of fine line, but I think you guys kind of know what I'm getting at.
Yeah, Guy, you mentioned that you work with thousands of global investment firms, and the main goal of any investment firm is to maximize a return, right? So I'm curious to hear from your perspective, what is the ROI of kindness?
Oh my gosh, it's when people say you've changed my life, right? I mean, when it's like that's the goal, right? Is you really want to be able to change someone's life because we know what normal work looks like, right? You go in and somebody's pretty unkind to you, or they say something weird, or there's unrealistic expectation, and then you go home and you complain to your husband, your wife, your boyfriend, girlfriend, dogs, the whole thing. The ROI is off the charts, right? But it takes intense vulnerability, right, on behalf of that leader. And I heard a story about a buddy told me from Southwest Airlines, Herb Kelleher, and this guy. I was telling him our story, and he goes, "Stop." He goes, "Did you ever meet Herb Kelleher from Southwest Airlines?" I said, "No." He goes, "You ever heard of him?" I said, "Sure, I have." He goes, "If he met you once, right? I mean, he treated everybody so well at that company, right? So well." And that just stuck with him, right? And we have a young kid down here that we hired, and I just took him out to his first birthday dinner in Florida with his girlfriend, and she looked at me and she goes, since he went from that one job to working for Dakota, you've completely changed his life. When he comes home, he's happy, he's not complaining, he doesn't feel burned out, he doesn't feel put down by his other boss. So yeah, I mean that's because it's way more gratifying to
Well,
be
that
able to
makes
help
sense.
people get what they want.
That makes sense for sure at that personal level, but organizationally, investors will be like, well, we're maximizing return for the shareholders, right? This is what we're trying to do. And here you are, you're spending a lot of money, not having vacation policies, not having, travel policies. You fly whatever airline you want and stay in whatever hotel you want. And by the way, here's a membership to this club over here, and we're going to go buy you new jackets. And so they'll be like, we can just cut all that out and we can earn a much higher return. But what I'm hearing you tell me is actually, um, I'm guessing your thesis is, as an organization, you probably have greater return because you are investing in your people in this way than if you were not investing in them. And so I'm just curious, how does that actually how does it actually impact the bottom line when you operate your organization with kindness like you have been doing?
Well, think about how much it costs to replace somebody that you lose.
There you go.
And the time
Yeah.
and training. You talked about if they're only there for an hour, right? How when they know that job, how quickly they can get things done.
Yeah, I mean, again, you're spot on. It's such a simple answer, is that's the cost of doing business.
Yeah.
So just doing those things and showing people that you care about them, and you want low turnover. You want your best people to stay, and you want people to be thrive in the workplace. And think about distraction, right? Well, if your boss comes in, if every business is a people business, and your boss is a jerk here and there, and they're distracting you, and then you're bummed out. You're like, why did they put me down? You have to call your husband or wife and complain. He did it again, or she did it again. Oh my God, And so you start to think about all that stuff where you just want to take all that off the table, right? Where it's just like, look, this is all about you guys. And they feel that you have their back and that you actually care about them, right? And we have great snacks in the office, right? Yeah, we work out, we've all of that stuff, but that's all part of taking care of people, and we're
Wait a
still
minute. What kind
extremely
of snacks do
profitable.
you have in the office?
Oh, it's like a laundry list of snacks, you name it. I mean, and they can order from Amazon whatever they want. So we have Amazon boxes coming in all the time. Um, yeah, I mean, I think some of the fan favorites are some of these, like, grass-fed beef jerky or whatever the things. But you have everything from, bad snacks like Cheez-Its, and Sun Chips to, like, you name it. And we always buy lunch on Fridays. And so, yeah, then what ends up happening is you
See, this
create,
is this is my
and then
love language. There's this place in Philadelphia, Guy, called Cook. I don't know if you've ever been there. It's a place where the chefs actually create the menu, and you sit around and they cook for you. It's like 15 people, and you're in the kitchen while they're making food for you. It's amazing. Yeah, they sell out like the first day of the month. You gotta. Have you heard of that downtown
no,
Philly?
no.
It's called Cook, and it's awesome. They have these visiting chefs and gosh, Christian, we got to go do that one of these times. But that's my love language. You got nice snacks and good food, and now I'm there.
Yeah, great. And we have a bevy machine, if you know what those are. We have, fresh coffee, like Starbucks kind of thing,
Yeah.
and, like the industrial strength kind of thing. So, no, it's great. And it's like, well, right, but why wouldn't you do? Now, listen, if we were a struggling startup and losing money, I mean, it's profitable. So, that stuff, but it's always been the case. And I want it to be a great place to work,
I
right?
got to
I
show
want
this.
people to have fun.
We have a sponsor to our show, and it's Team Coaching International. And I just want to just look at this model. The goal is, if you see where that little red arrow is, that's high productivity, high positivity. And less than 10% of companies get up there. What most of them look like is this little square that you see here. On the bottom right, we have high productivity but low positivity, right? It's just a grind. It's that locker room. It's that competitive mentality. It's not sustainable. You're going to lose people. On the top left, that's high positive, low productive, where nobody challenges each other. They don't have those tough conversations that you're talking about. The bottom left is low, low, we're out of business. But to get to that top right, Guy, that's everything, because that's where you're having those. It's not kumbaya, exactly what you said. You can have tough conversations, and people say, you know what, Guy, you're right. I didn't follow through with what I committed to do. I will make it right. And there's not a defensiveness, and you can have tough conversations, but it's so much funner because it's so much more fun because people want to win. They want to work hard and then go have the special days. They want to be recognized for making, for contributing to the success of the organization.
And one of the things I talk about in the book a lot, my dad died in '03 from a blood transfusion. He had like 30 years before that, Hep C. And like his dad was really bad to him. And he called me out on everything, like everything all the time. And if you think about it, right, no one's perfect. We all have
Oh.
foibles, right? But for you as a leader, any leader, to go in and sit there and pick people apart, right? And just like expect there's like somehow perfection, or constantly judging, constantly all over people. No one wants that. right? No human being wants to be picked apart, but that's a lot of leaders, right? It's like, no, I got, and it's just like, because there's nothing perfect in any way, shape, or form. That's why that's why you focus on the big things and not on the little things, right? And just let the little things go, right? Because everyone's going to be their own individual. Everything's going to, right? That's the micromanaging thing. It's just like you just got to let that go. It's just like as a parent, right? Do you want
That's what my
every
wife
single,
always said about raising our kids. Is that
yeah,
really important? Is that
right?
is that gonna make or break them in the in the scheme of eternity? That's not that important. So you gotta take a bigger view of the future and success. Wow, we're kind of getting to the end of it, Christian. Time's gone quickly.
Yeah, I think we need to get to the lightning round, Spencer.
Yeah, but I know you have a question before we get there. We have time for one more, Christian. Doesn't he have great
Do we
questions?
have time for one more?
Yeah, we absolutely do.
Uh, what does it look like for you in 5 years? People are really freaking out over all this AI stuff. They're concerned about their jobs, and you know, I I sympathize. I work in AI for a living, so I get it. But we're looking at some potential upheavals, and one of the questions I have, just kind of future facing, is you look at your organization, like how do you adapt to these rapidly changing times while still maintaining that core culture of kindness?
I just make sure I'm communicating on a daily, weekly basis about what's going to do. Because you can go ask Claude right now, right? Hey, Claude, we're using you for all these things. So everyone's a professional analyst now. Everyone's a copywriter, professional. Everyone's a graphic designer, right? So you start to think about this, right? Everyone's, like I said, everyone's an analyst. So now those things that used to be done by those people, you just have to repurpose that. And there's some of the most successful people in the world for years and years and years hired subject matter experts, right? So you have the top person in your field they hired. Like the great hedge fund manager in New York, I won't name his name. What did he do when he wanted to teach his daughter chess? Well, he hired the master, whatever, grand champion, right? That's like just one super basic example, right? So he's not going to like the local guys. No, he's going to the best in the world. Okay, you have the money to do that. Well, today, everyone's that. Everyone has that because they have it in their pocket today. And so you have to be looking at, utilizing these tools. It's really hard for AI to outsource relationships, getting along with people, making connections, judgment, where you point the gun, if you will, decisions, right? So just because everyone is AI, we have 7 competitors in our database business, 7 completely different strategies, which blew me away. I still, after 7 years, I'm like, I thought everyone would want to do how I'm doing it. And it's not, it's literally 7 distinct ways of doing business. So, you know what I mean? So it's like choice, choice is always going to be important. These are very exciting times. And you're going to have to step up. I mean, everyone's going to have to step up and not sit there and whine and cry, right? Just figure out. And by the way, you have it on your app. You can ask it these questions, and Claude will tell you. Claude will tell you what he can do or she can do versus what he can't do and what we can do. You know what I mean? And it's like so funny when you type in. And so, but there will be jobs. I mean, of course, right? We've set to send stuff to our graphic designer, $125 an hour. Well, we don't need to do that as much anymore, right? So he's going to have to figure something else out, right? It's not our fault, right? I mean, you went from doing math by hand to a calculator to an Excel spreadsheet. Now you've got Claude or Chat, what have you. So
I
no,
just saw an article, Christian, that said AI is not actually making our life easier; it's making it more difficult. It's making it more. We're working harder now. I don't know if that's true, but I'm really interested to look into that. So we can do more, just like you said, Gui. We're now authors. We're now experts in everything because we have these that are that's a great way of looking at it, and that takes a lot of work, even though we're using these tools to augment our abilities. Well, all right, we're going to do a lightning round. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to ask you 10 questions, and these are like one-word answers, super quick. We're going to go as fast as you can. And just off the top of your head, are you ready?
Yep.
Okay, hard work or smart work?
Smart.
One word that defines great leadership.
compassion.
A leadership book everyone should read.
Be kind.
Besides your own.
Leadership book that everyone should read. Man, you got me on this one.
So, and then you need to let people know where they can get a hold of the Be Kind book.
Amazon.com or send me an email, gui@dakota.com, and I'll send you a free signed copy.
gui@dakota.com. Awesome. I want to get one. Biggest myth about company culture.
That you have to be a jerk to get stuff done.
Early bird or night owl?
Early bird.
The most underrated leadership trait?
Love.
One habit that drives success?
Focus on what matters most.
A lesson that failure taught you?
Whew. Well, I had so many. I've had so many. A lesson. My favorite one is from my mother, and that is, when in fear, get into action. So you fail, something happens, you're fearful. The way out of the hole is to just get into action.
Yeah, stop thinking about it. That's right. One word that describes Dakota's culture.
Well, kind.
Finish the sentence. Great teamwork happens when?
You all trust each other.
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you so much, Gui.
Thanks for having me on. This has been really engaging.
So you gave the email address already, Gui, GUI@dakota.com. Is that the way you would like people to contact you? Or are there other ways that
Yes.
people should connect with you or your organization?
They can connect with me on LinkedIn, Instagram, our website, dakota.com. There's the primary
All right,
ways.
fantastic. Guys, go get the books. Go reach out to Gui. He's doing amazing things. Spencer, you've been helping people all over the world for a long time build high-performing teams. What's the best way for folks to connect with you?
Message me on LinkedIn. Just say hey, and love to connect. And Christian, Gui, isn't he great? He's got such great questions. He's so smart.
Amazing.
And I just, everywhere I go, I love to introduce Christian, and I know people are listening to this and they want to find you. How do they find you, Christian?
Well, thank you, Spencer. Very kind. Just LinkedIn as well. Just look up Christian Napier. You'll find me there, and happy to connect with anyone. And it's been an amazing hour with you, Gui. We're so grateful to you for your time and sharing your knowledge and your experience and your wisdom with us and with our viewers and listeners. And speaking of viewers and listeners, thank you so much for joining us as well. Please like and subscribe to our podcast. We'll catch you again soon.